Well, good morning. I am usually in attendance at Mount Olive on a Sunday morning, but I'm gone. I have no idea where. But Alvin asked if I would answer some questions about temptation, about guardrails in all of these things. So here they are. Here's the first question. How did you get to be so bald so fast? Where'd that come from? Okay, second question. I think this is the real one. Basically, what are some potential sexual and relational temptations in traveling and speaking as you do? Well, temptation faces us all. I'm not unique in that, but maybe you don't have to look so hard for it when you travel as much as I do. I suppose being on stage can bring temptations they don't prepare you for in Sunday school when you're 5. The first, 3 of them come to mind. The first has to do with cash, with money. We all know evangelists who've been sidetracked by money. That's nothing new. Second one is sexual immorality. There's really nothing about being away from your wife and staying in hotels that encourages faithfulness, sadly. I've had very well-known people confess to me in agony some disaster, maybe the loss of a marriage, different things that have gone on because of short-term thinking. The third temptation is, I hope I can remember it, exaggerating your successes. Trust me, that is a big deal, which boils down to pride. Sounds bizarre, but it's true. To complicate things, I realized early on that a deep love for Jesus doesn't make you immune to greed, to pride, to lust, to these temptations. In fact, putting some passion into your ministry seems to have the opposite effect sometimes. And when you're the funny guy, sometimes you're a bit of a target. It's strange. That didn't happen to me in high school. Sadly, I have seen so many church people disillusioned by leaders who have fallen. And, the enemy promises us what isn't his to give. I mean, he didn't invent sex, believe it or not. He didn't invent pleasure. He can only twist it. That's what he does. So I'm really glad that Alvin had the courage to talk about this a few weeks ago. And God as author and designer of sex, I think, is essential for us to get a grip on when we deal with temptation. My dad told me that it was a filthy, rotten, disgusting thing. Save it for the one you love. Okay, he didn't. But I was surprised to learn that it was God's idea. I always thought that God was kind of surprised when this happened. That he said to the angels, I know, I can't believe it. Look, I'm shocked too. He wasn't shocked at all. He designed us that way. He's a good God. His gifts are good. But you know what? The closer you get to him, the more you hang out with people who are struggling, the more sin becomes unattractive. I don't want to sound super spiritual because I'm simply not, but you find yourself saying no to temporary pleasures, not because you don't want pleasure, but because you want true pleasure, lasting pleasure that is only God's to give. The enemy can't give it. Okay, question 2 from Alvin. This is, given this, what are some of the sexual and emotional guardrails you've placed in your life and ministry? This is personal, Alvin. I'm glad no one's watching. First, you know what? I decided to tell my wife about temptations on the road. I remember an LA hotel where I was going down the hallway. I remember the words just like it happened about 2 minutes ago when 2 young ladies stepped out in front of me. The enemy is just not really subtle sometimes, and they didn't have much. Well, they hadn't spent a lot on their outfits, and just said to me, "You want to see our suite, mister?" And I don't think they were realtors or anything, but I did this old hockey move, and I went one way and I went the other way, and I took off past them. And I was younger; I could really run back then, and I got around the corner in this L-shaped hallway. And I leaned against the wall and I started laughing. I don't know why. I guess I just realized I had an opportunity to mess up my life. And thank God, by his grace, it didn't happen. I was so glad. I remember checking into a Chicago hotel one night after being on a TV program and having thoughts I shouldn't have when you're a married guy and you're checking into a hotel room and you know those temptations. And the lady behind the desk looked at me and said, "Oh, I just watched you on TV. Thanks for what you were saying." And I'm thinking, oh, Callaway, man, oh, man. Wow. That's a time to put a picture of your family on the TV or on your computer. I started being brutally honest with a few close friends. That's been a big deal for me. I was speaking at an East Coast writers conference when a romance writer, believe it or not, took an active interest in me, and she was very nice to me, and suddenly was telling me about a dream she had, which was really weird, and then had told me she loved me. And I phoned my wife and I said, honey, pray for me. I got home from that, and these temptations don't go away. And suddenly this person contacted me, and I'm having thoughts in my mind that are completely inappropriate. And so I took out a piece of paper, and I wrote down on that piece of paper, I wrote down benefits of an affair. Don't know if you've ever done this or thought of doing this, but it's not a bad thing for a guy to do. And I wrote down extreme temporary pleasure. I couldn't think of anything else. I got rid of that one really fast, and then I took out a longer sheet of paper, and I wrote down what I would forfeit if I had an affair. And this is what I wrote. I wrote down stuff like money, peace, joy, body parts, really good home-cooked meals every night, pleasure without guilt, my wife's trust, my trust, credibility with my sons, my ministry, friends trusting me around their wives, staring at the ceiling late at night and grinning like a carefree little kid, and walking my daughter down the aisle at Mount Olive Church with people crying for all the right reasons. That list appeals to me. Those are the things I want to hang on to. I got home from that trip and that romance writer incident, and I met with 4 different guys that are close to me, and each of them said, Callaway, number one, never be alone with a woman other than your wife, your daughter. Stop traveling alone. Whoa. So I began taking my wife or my kids or friends with me. It's surprising how many friends you have when you offer to pay their travel expenses and meals and stuff like that. But what a blast we began to have. Everything changed. You know what? There's far more joy in the light than in the dark. It's simply true. The Bible says, flee youthful lust, and when you get to be my age, you got to push your walker away from it as fast as you can. Run. I've suffered for Jesus on cruise ships through the years, and was with the singer Steve Green recently. He's even older than I am. But he sings a great song, may all who come behind us find us faithful. May the fires of our devotion light their way. May the footsteps that we leave inspire them to believe. And the lives we live inspire them to obey. May all who come behind us find us faithful. So it's my desire that I live so the preacher won't have to lie at my funeral. And I think these are steps I'm learning to take that are helping out.